a lot of people think that when you're a luxury influencer, you have the life, so your life is on a platter, that's why you can do it. That's not true. Like I said, that if you have to convert your knowledge into, money making, you've got to channel that. And if you're not, and it's going to be money out of your pocket, shut it. So you have to remain relevant. You have to connect with the youth, because that is what the whole social media is about. The next generation being Gen Zs, you have to understand them. You have to know that is the future. And if you don't connect with the future, you have no future.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, this is Amanpreet Vai, and I welcome you to yet another exciting episode of our podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us. She's looking lovely. Her name is Payal Sen, and she's an influencer and a lifestyle brand curator. And those of you who don't know what that means, I will let Payal do the honors herself. So, Payal, please tell us, what is it that you do exactly, and what is your current role today?
Hi, I'm Manpreet. Thank you for having me here. My first podcast, so I'm very excited. So, yeah, by definition, I am an influencer. By profession, I am an influencer and a digital creator. And the other part you said, which is a lifestyle brand curator, that purely comes from the kind of brands I associate with. They are in the space of luxury and lifestyle. So it comes under the curation of that. So whether we're talking home, whether we're talking fitness, whether we're talking, of course, fashion, beauty, travel, all that comes under a specific lifestyle. So you're actually selling the concept of aspiration. That's why it comes under lifestyle brand curation.
So, when did your journey start? I'm sure our viewers would love to know, as an influencer and a lifestyle brand curator start, and how did it happen?
So I'm going to actually stop and rewind to about maybe 12 years ago, where I actually forayed into the luxury space with my own fashion label under my name, Payal Sen. But I quickly got out of that because I knew, okay, I have a sense of style, I have a sense of aesthetic, but dealing with production was not my forte. I'm a double MBA in international business and marketing. So marketing, getting the right product to the right people is my forte. So I got out of that, but I went deeper into the fashion space with my own lifestyle exhibition of very niche, very luxury called 10 on 10, where I put together only 10 fashion week designers on a platform. From that, it moved on to India opening up to international brands. In came Emporio, DLF brought in all these brands. So I actually did the store launches for so many of them. I mean, I've worked with Christian Louboutin, Coach, Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, you name it, like all these brands. So from there, it progressed a little bit into events where, you write product, needs the right launch, needs the right people, right? So it's all about bringing the people together, which is where I came in again. Cut to COVID happening. Now, suddenly, just a little bit before that, I was pretty much one of the last few of my friends to actually come onto Instagram. And then we were in this lockdown phase where I started posting. I just started posting things that I was doing, how I was keeping myself busy, what I was, how I was looking after myself. And I started connecting with an audience. And the audience somehow had a lot of questions. They had a lot of things that they wanted to know. And I
It's
somehow
so
had the
crazy.
answers.
So many people actually say that about COVID.
Yeah.
They're like, that's how the influenza, I mean, that really did it for us. So many.
Yeah, that marked the end of print media and the start of something that reaches every home, every phone. So it just opened up a whole new platform of advertising and marketing and sales. It's the whole thing is that a click of a button, even if you're in a car, you could have bought a product. So that's how it happened. And of course, the response I got from my audience, an influencer or anyone who's a digital creator, is only there because of their audience.
So, was there any specific moment, Payal, where you thought that, okay, now this is my career choice? Or is it just go with the flow?
No, the minute brands started reaching out to me and actually started paying me, that's when I realized that, hey,
Yeah. I know there's something there.
I mean, if you put your knowledge to actual realization of getting paid for it, then you're worth it.
Absolutely. So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced starting out? And how did you?
Well, of course, a lot of people think that when you're a luxury influencer, you have the life. So your life is on a platter. That's why you can do it. That's not true. Like I said, that if you have to convert your knowledge into, money making, you've got to channel that. And if you're not, and it's going to be money out of your pocket, shut it.
I know.
So that's what
Correct.
it is.
So every career has its ups and downs. Can you share a moment when you faced failure or disappointment and how did you handle it?
Um, some brands that I wanted to work with, it fell through. Sometimes they do fall through. But it is, of course, also about standing your ground. If today I'm at a place because I've put so much work into it where I command a certain fee, and then these brands come along who want to bargain, I will let it go. I will feel bad, but I will let it go.
So did someone inspire you where you've reached today or you just kept going with the flow and just happened naturally?
Masoom Minawala, all the way.
Yeah, she's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what has been the biggest challenge in your career as an influencer and brand curator, and how have you overcome it?
Juggling many worlds, wife, mother, daughter, homemaker, all of it. Sometimes it gets too much because what actually happens when you're in this space that it takes over your life. You're online all the time.
Absolutely.
You don't know when to stop. That is a big challenge. It's an ongoing challenge.
And of course, there's so much social media pressure. I feel being a model all my life. First, you have to look a certain way. Then, 100% you have to have that perfect body. And then you are married. Then you become a mother, like you said, and then wife, and then taking care of the child. And then also, maintaining your social media appearance. It just becomes, I feel it just becomes too much. Do you ever feel that? The pressures of social
Yeah.
media?
Of course you do, and that's why you need to just disconnect. I mean, it's easier said than done, but going to the hills or the beach. But then also, what happens is your brain is now a content creator
I
brain where you see
know.
everything as content.
So we really can't do that social media detox ever.
I've never taken a detox, I have to say.
Yeah. So if someone's trying to break into the influence and brand curation industry, what would be your piece of advice?
Just find your beat and stick to that beat. Do not try to have a finger in every pie because that is a recipe for disaster. Stick to one forte, master that because that's the only way to make a name.
So how would you describe your personal style and what do you think sets it apart from other influencers in the industry?
I like accessories a lot, but also I think I like reinventing classics in many ways. It could be through color blocking, it could be through a little drift of a fabric, it could be just, colors, accessorizing in another way. My personal style would also be timeless. I like timeless clothes, which I can just wear even every 5 years and it look completely different because your style has evolved a bit. You have grown up and in age a little bit, so you would wear it differently. So I love international designers a lot, but I have to say the way the Indian designers are going right now, the world is going to see a wave of Indian designers take over. And I'm all about Make in India. My whole brand is about promoting Make in India, whether it is fashion or beauty. Everything is now, this is the country to look out for. And my personal style resonates it a lot.
So Payal, as an influencer, what is your business model? Like, how do you collaborate with and promote brands as an influencer?
Okay, so of course, when we collaborate, there are different ways of collaboration. One could be either only like a one off, we do a one off, whatever the budgets are, whether it's a reel or it's a carousel or it's stories based, it's a one off thing. Like that would come under the category of, say, all these exhibitions that happen. You're promoting an event. Now, the other thing is when you actually, because I'm in the lifestyle, brand curation space, we like to take on ongoing projects where there's a brand recall value. It's not just a one-off, one day you're promoting this brand, next day you're promoting another brand. No. So I actually say no to a lot of brands also, which don't resonate with my personal style. If I don't think I would actually wear that outfit out myself to a party or to a social engagement, I don't want to be a sellout. I want to be something which people will say, yeah, she's actually wearing that for her own friend's party. So that is a brand that is in her own wardrobe. So that's how I choose my brands. And then, of course, there is a fee attached to the kind of deliverables they want and how ongoing it is.
So Payal, in a rapidly changing world, how do you maintain your connection with your audience and keep your brand relevant? I mean, there is a tension.
Absolutely, there
I
is.
mean, they just shift to other people so fast. Your followers
Absolutely.
do get bored sometimes, and they
100% you're right. And with that, even Instagram evolves. I mean, there was a time when, interviews and stuff like that were aired there. You could put 30-minute interviews up. Now, whatever you want to deliver is 90 seconds.
really,
And the audience will shift if in the first 5 seconds there's no hook.
yeah.
So you have to remain, audios have to be relevant, all of that. So you have to be on top of the game. And if you can't get someone to help you, I mean, if you can't, then you must get someone to help you. That's the way it is. So you have to remain relevant. You have to connect with the youth, because that is what the whole social media is about. The next generation being Gen Zs, you have to understand them. You have to know that is the future. And if you don't connect with the future, you have no future.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how does a personal, like influencer's personal branding affect the higher brands you're working with?
So that is your organic content, right? That is what your audience actually connects with you for. Your audience isn't necessarily connecting with you for where you're making your money. It's not connecting with you for which brand is paying you to wear a certain thing. It's what you wear when you go out. It's you showing that. It's how you do your makeup. What do you eat? What fitness do you follow? Where do you like to go? How do you detox? That sort of thing. So that once you plug those brands into your lifestyle, that's why I say no to a lot of brands also. So it has to be in sync.
Yeah. So today, many small and large brands recognize that the easiest way to connect with their target consumers is through influencers. So, what's your opinion of this?
See, the minute social media opened up, now let's just take one step back. In this country, it is understood that the real influencers are either Bollywood or cricket stars.
Yeah.
Right? Because that is the mass market, if that's your audience. When in came a slot of the professional influencers, we bring with us an audience that has been catered according to our personalities. If your brand is something I resonate with and I will promote it, it will go into each home that would probably buy that particular brand. Similarly, another influencer whose audience may be completely different, maybe a completely different sect of Delhi, they have their market though also. And if they think that their brand is for those people, you go to them. Like if I'm working with the brands in Emporio, then that is my audience. If someone is working with the brands from somewhere else, that's their audience. So that's how they find an immediate reach into someone who has the budget to spend.
So, you worked with all the high end brands like Emporio has all high end brands. What about the small brands? What advice do you think you would like to give them who are trying to market themselves?
I think they are the future for sure. They're doing a great job when it comes to Make in India, sustainability. This is a huge thing with new designers now, sustainability. They're also, very clever because they're not spending on these high-end locations as their stores. They're going into lesser expensive retail spaces. They're going into little boutiques in their factories. Great. They're doing a great job. And their whole model is they've created websites. They're doing the whole online portal thing, which is not a retail store. And I think it's great from their creativity point of view. Just remain original. Don't ape any Western designer.
So, what advice do you give to these brands who want to stick to their core values, and then they might hire an influencer who's slightly a little different? So, how do you ensure that a brand stays aligned with its core values when collaborating?
I think again, it is recall value for that influencer's audience. Don't do a one-off thing because that doesn't make any sense. A lot of brands, what they try to do is they get 6 influencers, named good ones, on board, and they'll do that. Oh, the campaign should go live today. Great. That campaign has gone live for 24 hours. What happens day 2, day 3, day 4? It's dead. Right? So do it more often or just spread it out a little bit more, because this thing of everyone going live on the same day is dated now.
Why should an influencer have the freedom to present a brand in their own style?
So here's the thing. Influencers, we are also creative in our own way. So if you give me a clothing item, right, it is my personal style that I will wear the garment. The garment will not wear me. I will wear the garment will not wear me. That is why you as a designer are coming to me to see what's the spin I can take on this and how does it resonate. So my creativity has to come in front.
So when I started modeling, models were the bomb. And
Still are.
yes, but there are, uh, in a fashion show, you would see 20 models, 25 models, and then we would probably have a showstopper, which were we only at that time, and sometimes
Now it's all Bollywood.
yeah, Bollywood celebrity showstoppers, and now we actually have influencers also as showstoppers. So why do you think a brand would choose an influencer over a celebrity endorsement?
Isn't that the brand's cry to be relevant?
Yeah, mass market.
Didn't Abu Jani use Urfi?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think they needed her or she needed them?
I don't think they needed her, but
See,
they
it's all the
definitely
new
did.
age, all the new age
Yeah,
marketing, the most
yeah.
relevant person, the most talked about person.
And Urfi's
Everybody wants a
personality
piece of
doesn't
that.
even resonate with them. Like I've worked with them so much, and still they used her. Yeah, she is. She is. I never used to think much of her initially, but then when I started listening to her podcast and the way she was talking, I actually thought that, oh my gosh, she's a sensible girl. Even though her dressing on the roads is not, according to me, but she is a very sensible. Okay, Payal, so how can an influencer deliver better return on investment ROI for a brand?
So sometimes you see influencers who say use my code and things like that. So when you use those codes, that's a direct indication to the brand that this has come from this influencer's page. So that is a direct indication of how much that influencer has brought to the table. So if they are making a percentage of sales, they know that. If they're making just a direct, there are various types of influencer marketing. Let's not forget that everything is not sales driven. For a new brand to even get recognition to thousands of people is a step into the limelight. Right? Then comes the sale. Like I said, this space is very crowded. There are over 100 skincare products. There are over 100 designers. Each one is hustling every day, literally. So even if an influencer is putting your name out there, that's a little bit of recognition you're getting.
Yeah. So, Payal, have you ever worked with a brand and the result, and you would think, my God, that's such a big brand. Like I've worked with a very big brand, and I do guest lists also. And the result wasn't as I would expect it to be. So, has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, so sometimes what happens is the bigger the brand you work with, the lesser the sales come.
Yes.
The smaller brands definitely do convert to more sales. Firstly, they are more cost effective. Today, everybody's price conscious. If the product is friendly to your budget, only then will you buy it. Otherwise, there's this fast fashion of Zara, which everyone is comfortable with, and H&M. So, yes, the bigger the brand, sometimes it's just about celebrating a brand. So when those brands have those kind of budgets, they should just take it as a marketing expenditure.
Absolutely. I keep telling them, sometimes they approach me with such like over expectations of, oh, would you be able to convert the event into these many sales? And I'm like, no, that can't happen. Exactly. They should treat it as a
Marketing event, and that's what it is. Because like I'm doing an event now for an auction house. I mean, it's an auction house. There's nothing even for 5 lakhs. It's just a brand awareness. So that's what it is.
So, Payal, you worked with so many international brands. And could you tell us how you started working with international brands and when did it begin?
International brands, that was a phase when Emporio and all these brands was setting in. Now they've got multiple locations all over India. And I suppose, coming in with a group like Genesis or with like different, I don't call them franchisees, but people who have the brands with them in India, they were the ones who reached out. So that's how it was.
Okay, so how many international brands have you worked with so far and which ones are they?
Christian Louboutin, Michael Kors, Coach, Jimmy Choo. I have worked with a store that has the labels of Versace, Rosenthal, all the homeware. So that's what happens. Like all the brands don't necessarily come in directly; they've come in via, and you're still working for the brand.
Any particular brand which you exclusively got to Delhi?
No, I haven't brought a brand in. No.
What has been your experience working with international brands?
So I've done store events for them. I've launched some of them. I've done social media for some of them. And I've done like just promotion of an event also. Like I said, like if it's an exhibition, things like that. But this would be an event, like a new collection.
So, working with international brands, was there a specific challenge you faced and how did you deal with it?
When you work directly with an international brand, at least when I did, they don't pay money, which is not good.
All right. So, Payal, how long have you been curating creative pop ups and private trunk shows? What is the main reason behind it?
So I did that for a very long time, but ever since I became an established influencer, I was not doing that because that's too much of a conflict. I'd rather promote the event online and reach a wider audience than just call a select group of people. However, now, again, the social media space and the algorithms, they keep changing. I would love to do, and I am doing, very curated niche events. Like I'm now, right now, working on, and next week I'm doing a thing for India's leading Indian auction house. So things like that, different kind of events, I extend my brand name to. But otherwise, I prefer to do the social media marketing for them because that is now my forte.
So, Payal, so many exhibitions, so many pop ups, so many trunk shows. You see that everywhere. So many of my friends are doing it. Everyone's.
Yeah, it's at when there's exhibition time, you literally feel like every day you're promoting a different exhibition.
Yeah, really. So, how do you choose the brands and designers that feature in your events, or is it all about money?
No, not at all. So what happens is there's certain events that you work with every time they're doing an exhibition. So there's like, I mean, if it's a XYZ and they do it 3 times a year, they come to you 3 times a year and you do it. But of course, you have to also, you want to work with the bigger exhibitions, right? The ones who advertise in newspapers or they put up billboards. That is my criteria. The bigger exhibitions I work for, not this. And also, I work with the brands of exhibitions that cater to South Delhi because that is my forte. I understand that market.
So, Payal, curating an exhibition is definitely not an easy task. Trust me, I know. Oh my God, it's not easy. And, especially, and even after you've set up the hotel, the stalls, the decor, par excellence of everything, you want to bring in that audience. And so many times, a lot of exhibitions don't have any audience. Now, how do you make sure your audience has like a memorable experience, or rather, your designers have a memorable audience?
I don't do the exhibition space besides promoting the exhibition to my audience, telling them what dates they're on and what designers there are. But yes, I have been asked many a times to, curate a special guest list and bring in for a high tea or something like that. I don't do that because that's not my forte. I'm very clear. Like I said, I say no to a lot of work because if I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it because then I will not get asked by another 100 of them.
Yes. Yes.
And that's not what I want to do.
And there's a thing called job satisfaction also. It's not always
No, it has to be like if I have given my name, it is really worth
yeah.
not give it to everything, and that just defeats the.
Absolutely. So, Payal, as we all know, you started your Instagram journey in 2015. So, building a strong community of followers is key for an influencer, of course, and lifestyle brand curator like you. How have you managed to connect with and grow with your audience over time?
So when you say 2015, that was when I was just, putting up my own personal pictures, like my friends, my children, my holiday, that sort of stuff. Like I said, then came COVID and then came the lockdown, and that's when I started creating content, like creating, like creating recipes, creating skincare, creating products, things like that. That's when I actually forayed into it seriously. And so the audience started asking me questions. I listened to the audience and I started creating content that was answering their questions by doing Q&As with them, by doing all that kind of stuff. That is how I built up my organic content.
Yeah, and what about organic followers? In this day and age, everyone's getting messages like, please follow, likes,
Yeah, if I had to go that, if I had to go that route, I would have crossed 1 million.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I didn't do that.
Because I see so many people, they hardly have any likes, but they have like 600K followers, and I'm like,
No. So it's all about the quality of the brands that you're working with because that shows the conversions of your work, conversion to sales. And one thing, even the people who want to become influencers and join it now, do not chase numbers. It's meaningless. Your quality is everything. You cannot be one of thousands who is doing the same work.
And I think even the brands are very smart nowadays. They don't really, now they're changing. First, I think they used to think that likes hone chahiye. Now I think they want to understand how many viewers you've reached.
How many viewers you've reached, what is the quality of the content, who are the people who actually you're with and who you're influencing. That sort of thing. But I've also been asked sometimes to send out some gifts here and there, and brands, you're talking about being smart, they want the names beforehand, and if they sort of know a person and they don't care for that person's reach, they take the name off the list.
So Payal's never been tempted to buy fake followers or
I know I don't care about all that.
very nice. So how do you typically decide which brands to collaborate with? What factors do you consider before saying yes to a partnership?
So if it's a clothing brand, the fabric, the cut, the stitch, the wearability, and where to wear. Like I said, I love classic lines. I love glamorous clothes, not necessarily very heavy on embellishment, but yeah, aesthetically placed embellishment for sure. So these are the kind of factors. I steer away from prints. So if there's a brand doing only prints, I won't wear it. When it comes to Indian clothes, my Indian wear is occasional wear. I don't wear it on a daily basis. So the brands that make everyday Indian wear, I don't associate with them. So these are it's exactly what my personal style is, that I would endorse a brand into that space.
So any social cause you're very close to, or any positive change you want to bring about through you being an influencer?
Social cause. I mean, of course, there are many charities we all do, and I mean, when you do charity, you don't really need to talk about it. Yeah. See, also like when it comes to the youth, I'm very, very cautious when I am influencing young followers. They should not think that the perfect picture or the perfect sun-kissed look that you see on Instagram is reality. You have to know that there is a editing team, there is lights, there is blowers, there is all sorts of stuff. So you have to make sure that, because they actually get mentally affected. There's a rat race amongst them, and they have to know that,
Look like that perfect 10 all the time
yeah,
is just
real
not
and real and
possible.
body positivity. You have to love your body. A size 0 is not the perfect body.
Yeah, like right now we have filters, so we all look perfect in all our pictures. And when I was modeling at the peak of my career, there were no filters and there was no Instagram. But then we did have Photoshop. Then also, so no one looks like that. I think the audience really needs to understand that. So, do you agree that showing personal life is also important on social media?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're not showing your personal life, you're a magazine, and who wants to be a magazine?
Yeah, correct. So, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced on social media in the beginning?
I mean, if you're promoting a skincare brand and there's a date for it to go out and you're having a bad skin day, you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, correct. So, what about social media trolling? Has Payal been a victim?
See, you have to understand the controls of your social media in your hands. You can block, restrict, delete, it's all in your thing. And if you're so desperate for numbers, you will never end up deleting anybody's. That's why I again say don't chase numbers. The kind of content I put out, I actually say I'm being well received, because there's no point in portraying something that you're not, and that fakeness. I don't think I bring out anything fake.
Correct. So, are the looks you portray on social media the same in real life as well?
The looks.
The looks, your look.
Most of my social media is like, even if I'm wearing the outfit, I will wear it to somewhere or something like that. So yeah, a lot of it is real. A lot of them, of course, are just shoots which are, for social media promotions and sales. But yeah, they will, I mean, the way I'm sitting or the way I'm speaking or the mood of the entire campaign will be something that is me, and that comes across and is sort of just intertwined into the organic content that you will see on my stories or somewhere or the other.
So, Payal, tell us something about your family now, your father especially. We would like to know. Who is he and what does he do?
So my father's a professional, and I grew up in Calcutta. I was born there. We were all there, and they moved to Delhi about 22 years ago, while I was still in college, and they live here. My brother lives here. My parents live here, so I'm very happy. I've got them in town with me.
How has your upbringing contributed to the way you approach challenges and opportunities in your life?
See, when you grow up in Calcutta, sport is a very big part of your life, and sport, according to me, is a character building activity to take part in, whatever sport it might be. My brother is a professional golfer. I grew up being a swimmer and a badminton player. So, a team sports. So you're a team player, and in somewhere being there, you become a leader. Somewhere there. So those kind of life skills are taught there. So that I don't see very much in Delhi, but that's why I'm very happy I grew up in Calcutta. I'm a Punjabi. My husband is half Bengali, hence Sen being my surname. But people get confused with the name and thinking I grew up in Calcutta, but I'm a Punjabi.
So, did your family background help you in your journey of being a lifestyle curator and an influencer?
When my parents are old school, I mean, their whole generation is old school. They still don't understand what I do. So they still like, but what is it?
Still, my mother is so crazy sometimes. She compliments me on Facebook and then
She doesn't understand that something is there on social media. Yeah, but they've also actually understood that this is the new generation and this is the new age businesses.
getting the hang of it just a little
Just
bit.
about, yeah.
Okay, Payal, growing up, did anyone in your family have that creative entrepreneurial streak that inspired you to follow a similar path?
So my mom was an interior designer for at least 24 years, and she was actually there was a book that came out about the 50 leading women entrepreneurs in India, and she was in it at that time. This is the Ritu Kumar generation I'm talking about. So yeah, yes, it runs in us, in our genes.
So, Payal, where did you complete your schooling?
So I went till class 10. I was in Loretto House in Calcutta. And then for my plus two, I moved away to boarding school in England called Cheltenham. And then I did university there. And then right after university, I got married. And after marriage, I did my MBA in Delhi at Amity University.
So, and you did your MBA in International Business and Marketing, where Amity, like you said, what was the experience like and what did you learn there?
I learned. When you learn international business and marketing, you basically, know how to bring together a synergy between global brands, which is what I'm actually using in a new age business formula, right? How was it going to? It was a nightmare for me in the beginning.
Oh, really?
Coming back to college
You
after
always
marriage.
wanted to do your MBA?
I did, but I got married very young. So, but then I said that shouldn't stop me. And having studied away from the country from the age of 15, and even after marriage, having lived in New York and stuff, and then having coming back and doing an MBA here in the north, when I've never been to any schooling here, was a huge change. But yeah, I adapt. It was fine.
So, how did your journey as a wellness and alternate lifestyle expert with Naman Life begin, and what inspired you to focus?
So Namami Life reached out to me.
Namami Life.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they reached out to me actually during lockdown, and we did once a week episodes. At that time, Instagram supported live chats and things like that. So we reached out to an audience on their channel, where every week I brought somebody I knew or somebody I would approach in different areas. So it could be wellness, it could be health, it could be business, it could be children, it could be psychology, anything. And we created an entire show for them. Having moved on from there, today I have been working out with Odds Fitness for the whole year, and I have been doing strength training, and it has changed my life because this is about health more than anything else. I don't do much of cardio, but 4 days a week strength training with markers and people who come and actually, they monitor your progress, they see your bones health, your mental health, all of that. That is what a personalized program does for you. So that's how I've been promoting them the whole year. That's what I'm saying, recall value. It wasn't just a one-off session where do you work out. This 4 days a week, every month for the whole year.
So, Payal, you obviously have these beautiful 2 teenage boys as well. So, how do you cope up with balancing motherhood and then you're talking about your passion for fitness and wellness? Do you get the time? I mean, there's work as well, and we all wear so many hats nowadays. It just becomes
Yeah, so my older one is already in a boarding, younger one is still young. But it's great fun with them. And like I had kids when I was younger, so now although they're teenagers, I'm not that old. So I can actually match them and the energy levels as for now. And really connect. And through them also I see how the thinking has changed, what is the future of everything. So yeah, I'm wearing many hats. It's all a part of the package, isn't it? I like having many things going on at the same time. I function under pressure. So, and I'm a big planner. I'm a Virgo. I have lists, to-do lists, and they have to keep getting ticked off. And that's how I function.
So, what led you to practice power yoga for over a decade, and how has it transformed your approach to fitness and wellness?
So, power yoga is before I started doing strength training. I am innately a very lazy person. So power yoga,
Me too.
I thought power yoga would be a breeze, but it wasn't. It was quite something. But the results were nothing compared to strength training. The muscles, the rips, all of the definition. That I think I have now. I will not go back to power yoga. I will remain with strength training.
All right. So, Payal, we talked about that you've been associated with social causes and positive that bring about positive changes to our society. So, can you share more about your involvement with charitable causes like the Angels Network and how they align with your personal values?
So, even as an influencer online, you can use your platform for a lot of goods. So, sometimes we do closet sales. We sell various things, and all that money we just give to different charities. So, there are many others. Once a year, this gets done.
All right. I want to be a part of your closet sale. I have too many clothes. I feel very, very guilty when I see those clothes. I just don't know what to do with them.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Payal, how do you balance your personal style with the demands and trends, with the current fashion demands and trends?
So my personal style is actually I love formal clothes. I love glamorous clothes, which means I love long dresses. I love fitted silhouettes. I like high slits, backless, all of that. So it's a very glamorous look overall. Even if I say formal clothes, even if it's a trouser suit for the evening, there will be some drama. There will be either a low neckline or a backless or something like that. So like I said, I love accessorizing. So I think it would be very chic with leather gloves. I think it would be very chic with diamonds. I think there's the it bag or a hair accessory or a brooch. Just whatever's the flavor at the moment.
So, what's one personal fashion rule or mantra that you live by and would never break?
But I live by and never just dress for the occasion. And there's nothing called overdressed. There's just called being well dressed.
So, when Payal is not working or at home, which is my day tomorrow at home, I am a very tracksuit person. What kind of clothing or fashion choices do you make for yourself?
When I'm at home, doing nothing,
Signature life in a just normal day.
pajamas.
Yeah, me too, man. Pajamas and tracks. What's a personal career milestone that you're definitely most proud of?
It was a career milestone that I'm very proud of. I think every day you have little victories. So I think as long as I get a little victory every day, I'm very happy.
So we've seen you with celebrities like Siddharth Malhotra and Shilpa Shetty. I worked a lot with Siddharth Malhotra when he was just a model and he was a chubby man. He was a Punjabi, very good looking boy. Very, very good looking boy. And we were very senior models and he was just starting out and he's as humble today as well. So what was your experience with him?
So with Siddharth Malhotra, actually it was an evening out. It was nothing to do with work. Just my very close friend Siddhartha Teitler and him are friends, and they wanted to have dinner, and a few of us got together. It was a very, very nice evening. Just chilled out. And with Shilpa Shetty, actually we did an event together. Either it was Coach or Jimmy Choo, I can't remember. So we worked together at the event.
So now, Payal, we really want to know about the kind of relationships you've been in or currently in. You're married, right? So do you believe in true love?
Of course, but any relationship, and any marriage, whether it's a love marriage or an arranged marriage, and I would tell the younger generation the same thing. Everything is a gamble. Everything is work. Whether it's a man and wife, a man and woman, whether it is siblings, whether it is mother child, every relationship is work. Nothing is that just because there's a relationship, it's going to be perfect. No, there is work, and both ways, give and take.
So what is that biggest challenge couples are facing today, according to you, or how important is communication in a relationship?
Communication is the key to anything. If it's a work relationship or a marriage relationship or a committed relationship, if you don't communicate, you can't assume that the other person has understood because of your facial expression. That's bullshit.
So how did Payal get married then? How did that relationship come about?
We were actually introduced through our mothers who went to school together. So
Arranged come love.
that's what you call it. Yeah.
So how has your husband supported you in your career and success? And do you believe his contribution has played a big role in your journey?
Yeah, he's never said no, which is a great thing. And he's always been encouraging when he saw the various milestones happen and stuff. He's always been like, you should do more, you're capable. So that's always an encouraging word. It's never been like, whatever,
Nice. So as a busy influencer and brand curator, how do you and your husband ensure your relationship remains strong?
Communication.
And of course, taking out that extra time for each other.
Yeah, and he comes with me to most of the places, a lot of places,
Oh, nice.
the evenings and things like that. So he likes to be part of it.
So, any biggest challenge you feel, in maintaining work-life balance, work between personal and professional life?
I mean, maintaining work and personal life. Yeah, I find it very difficult to switch off. Like I said, the phone, I mean, it has to be a beep and I will check it. I haven't learned the art of ever putting my phone on silence. Yeah. So there's, and you suddenly start seeing everything as content.
Yes.
So even when you go to a party, you'll see the decor as, oh wow. And then suddenly you'll put it and then you get 20 people who are in the decor line saying, can you see my event?
Yeah.
So,
So, have your experiences in your marriage helped you grow as an influencer and a lifestyle brand curator?
I guess somehow, somewhere it's all interwoven, isn't it? Like my marriage is, and then that gives me a lifestyle, and then that gives me the preferences I have in the brands that I like, and that forms me. So that indirectly, subconsciously makes me approve of brands that fit there as well.
So, if you could give one piece of relationship advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Don't take any time off. There's no need. Everything can be done. There's no good time to start anything. There's no perfect time where things will, everything has to happen at the same time.
All right.
So you can work while you're pregnant, you can work while everything is going on. It's fine.
All right. Absolutely amazing. So, Payal, it was lovely having you. And now we come to the last segment of our show. Last, definitely not the least. It's a really fun segment. It's our rapid fire round. Very much, yes, we have copied Karan. And our coffee mugs are there as well. The hamper is missing. Okay. So, no, not much thought into it. Just whatever pops in your mind is the best answer. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee,
Early bird or night owl?
night out.
Absolutely, my sister there. What's the best advice you've ever received?
What's the best advice I've ever received? Kill a person with kindness.
Ah, killing with kindness. Good one. One thing you can't live without.
Sleep.
True that. Favorite way to unwind after a long day.
Netflix.
One habit you can't break.
Checking my phone.
Aren't we all addicted to that? If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
Lady Diana.
Ah, absolutely. Very good choice. What's one thing on your bucket list?
I have a lot of places I want to visit on my bucket list. It's a lot, yeah, travel.
What's your secret talent?
Multitasking.
If you weren't doing this, what would Payal be doing?
I would probably be in some MNC because of the what I've studied. So I would probably be a corporate.
All right, Payal. So we've come to the absolute end of our show. Please tell our viewers or give them one advice they would like to know if they're trying to, foray into a field like yours, influencer and a lifestyle brand curator.
So just be true to yourself, be authentic, know who you are, know why are you coming on this platform. What is your, like I say, what is your beat? What are you trying to put out there? Don't clutter yourself up. You may be great at everything, but that's irrelevant when it comes to a space like this, which is so crowded already. Choose one thing and stick to that.
All right, Payal, thank you so much for coming on our show. You look absolutely lovely. And I love the suit. The color is hot. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us again. This is your host, Amanpreet Wahi, signing off on your favorite podcast on Edge Talks. Follow and subscribe.